Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Kurvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we are celebrating Karva Chauth. In this workshop, I'm going to go over the meaning of Karva Chauth, the significance of Karva Chauth for husbands. We know what it is for wives. And unfortunately, oftentimes, husbands are left on the sidelines simply because the deeper meaning of what it means to be a husband, the deeper meaning of essentially Pati Dharma, has not been equally emphasized in society. So today we're going to go over what is Pati Dharma, the responsibilities, yes, but more what it means to be Pati or husband. So we're going to go over Pati Dharma. We're going to go over and explore the definitions and the meanings of what it is to be feminine or masculine, what are feminine and masculine energies based on the Vedic view. And then we're going to engage in 3 exercises to help husbands. And this is all for this workshop is for men and for husbands. So ladies, if you're watching this, turn it off and allow your husbands to have this space to develop. And for wives and ladies, there are numerous other programs and workshops. And you're already engaging in Karva Chauth. So this is not for you. This is for us men who have not been properly schooled, who have not been properly educated on what Pati Dharma, what it means to be a husband in this world. Okay. So let's start, first of all, with understanding the 2 energies, masculine and feminine, of course, all the energies in between. Now, the modern idea of what it means to be feminine and masculine, those are not different from the Vedic understanding. The Vedic understanding, which we find in the Puranas and so on, is similar, but then much more, right? So the limited view, femininity is, emotional and sentimental or those types of terms, often with a negative connotation, which is not accurate. But then those are the terms used to describe femininity. And masculinity, oftentimes with the prefix toxic masculinity, but anyways, masculinity oftentimes is stoicism and, analytical ability and rational, and those types of qualifiers are given to describe masculinity. And it has its value to use those terms in describing masculinity and femininity, but they are very, very limited and narrow in scope in understanding the true energy of femininity and the energy of masculinity. It also provides or puts into the conversation far too much negativity and connotations of sexism. One is good, one is bad, or one is this and one is that. Whereas the Vedic view is both are needed in concert, in unity, and in balance. And when both these energies are in balance, there is success, there is development, growth, achievement, and so on. Let's talk about this more advanced level of understanding masculinity and femininity. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes 7 traits of femininity. And then there are 4 traits associated with masculine energy, masculinity. So we find these feminine qualities in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 34. I will read them for you. So these 7 feminine principles are, this is chapter 10, text 34. Fame, I'll read the Sanskrit. It's always nice to hear how Krishna's own words describes these things. Mrityu sarvaharashchaham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kirti shridvakcha narinam smritir medhatriti kshama. Krishna says, I am all-devouring death, and I'm the generating principle of all that is yet to be. No, those were not the qualities of femininity. I'm all-devouring death. No. What's next is what Krishna is describing. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, determination, and patience. Those of you who've been in my workshops before know that you should have your notebooks and pens out to take notes. Take these notes. Principles of femininity, feminine energy. Fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, determination, and patience. These are feminine energies, feminine qualities. In the modern context, or in the non-Vedic context, oftentimes being very intelligent is considered a masculine trait. And oftentimes, unfortunately, women are described as less intelligent. Even the definition of intelligence is different, or let's say far more encompassing in the Vedic view than in the current context of what it means to be intelligent, be that as it may. So these are the defined or described in the Gita as feminine qualities, these 7. Masculine, there are 4. Get your pens out. And we find these 4 in the Bhagavat Purana, throughout many of the Puranas, in Mahabharat Itihasas as well. But I'll quote the Bhagavat Purana. Karva Chauth dhaya sati iti pada krite kritaha Adharmam shaistrayo bhagna smaya sangama dhais bhava. Tapa is the first. Masculine, these are masculine. Tapa means self-mastery. Shaucha means purity. Daya means compassion, empathy. Tapa Socha Jaya Satya. Satya means truthfulness. These are the 4 principles of Dharma. These associated with being masculine in nature. The principles of Dharma, these 4 principles are described as being the 4 legs of the bull that is Dharma. So we have these 4 principles, masculine principles, principles of Dharma, and these 7 principles of femininity. Feminine energy, masculine energy. What is the difference between the two? Now, first of all, before we go into the differences between the two, let's first, again, emphasize and highlight how the Vedic view deals with feminine and masculine. Not so much that they're separate, and not so much that they're just complementary. Of course they're complementary. But these energies exist simultaneously within men and women. Very, very important. So it's not that masculine, the 4 masculine energies or principles exist only in men, and the 7 feminine energies or principles exist only in women, ladies. So there is no gender distinction regarding these energies. But these energies exist in nascent form in both men and women. In other words, women have the capacity for the masculine to develop the 4 masculine principles, and certainly should, as well as the 7 feminine. And men have the same capacity to develop the 4 masculine energies and the 7 feminine. Men have that as well. Now, those of you who know me, who have been following me, know I always harp on this issue of freedom of choice. It is a human species that has the freedom of choice. The necessity, in fact, that we must choose, whether we are male or female, men or women, we must choose what we are going to manifest in the world. Animals do not have this ability nor the necessity. They do not have to choose. They are driven entirely, fully, 100% by Prakriti, by material nature. That characteristic that the animals, plants, and other creatures have, that's called Bhoga Deha. Their body is one of merely expending the characteristics and the karma that is given to them by Prakriti, by nature. Whereas the human species is karma deha. The human body is a body that produces, that must choose how it interacts in the world and therefore produces outcomes. So whether male or female, we have within us both these capacities for the 4 masculine and capacities for the 4 feminine, and we must then manifest, emphasize, grow, nurture how we're going to manifest these various energies. So now let's talk about the 4 masculine and the 7 feminine and how they work, combine, and are symbiotic in nature. Think of a flagstaff, flagstaff and a flag flapping in the breeze. The 4 principles of Dharma, Tapa, Socha, Daya, Satyam, they are the flagpole. The flag at the top are the 7 principles, energies of femininity. The very word stri in Sanskrit means to expand. So if we look at this, if we use this example, this visual of a flag and the flag staff and the flag flowing in the breeze, waving in the breeze, we see how both complement the other. A flag staff without a flag is a useless obelisk pointing to the sky. What's its purpose? No purpose without a flag at the top. A waste of space, a waste of material, a waste of resources. Flagstaff in and of itself provides neither guidance, provides nothing for anyone around it. Useful, one may say, only for its own existence, if that. A flag without a flagstaff is also useless. It provides neither direction, it provides neither meaning or inspiration to others around it. In fact, it will just lay uselessly on the ground to rot and decay. One without the other are essentially wasted resources. When you put the two together, then we have guidance, then we have inspiration, then we have meaning, then we have purpose, then we have something that provides all of these things to the world and society when they are together. So what are the differences between the 4 masculine and the 7 feminine? Trust me, I'm tying all of this together. We're going to come to Karva Chauth and how this all ties together and the significance of what we're doing here today. The 4 principles of Dharma, let's go over them. Self-mastery, tapa, shaucha, daya, satyam. Self-mastery, purity of motive, compassion and empathy, truthfulness. If you'll notice, these 4 qualities are foundational. It'll make more sense as we look at these 7 feminine qualities and how they are not foundational, but no less important. Fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, determination, and patience. These 7 qualities are not foundational in the sense that these 7 qualities blow, if you will, both hot and cold. Let me explain. Fame as a quality has both positive and negative effects. One can be famous, and that fame can be used for the upliftment of the world. Think of Christ, Krishna, whomever. Fame can also blow negative. One can become infamous, right? Jeffrey Dahmer, Hitler, what have you. So fame as a quality in and of itself is neither good nor bad. It depends on other factors beyond it. Let's look at fine speech, one of these feminine energies. Fine speech. One can be a great orator. Gandhi, Martin Luther King. And that ability can be used for the upliftment of society, or one can also be a great orator. Think of Mussolini, Hitler. and so on. Using the same principle of fine speech and bring total destruction and devastation to the world. So we see fine speech as a quality blows neither hot nor cold, or rather blows both hot or cold, depending on other factors besides itself. It can be both positive or negative. Let's think of determination. One can be determined and achieve so many wonderful feats that are uplifting to oneself, one's family, one's society by being determined. One can also be determined and destroy oneself, one's society, or one's family, one's society, still using the quality of determination. Same thing with patience. So we see these feminine energies blow both hot and cold. In other words, they blow or create both positive and negative effects. They can produce both types of effects, dependent on factors other than themselves. Whereas the four masculine energies, self-mastery, purity of motive, compassion, and truthfulness, these four principles only blow positively. They have no negative effects. Self-mastery is always a good thing. There is never a situation where self-mastery is a bad thing. There is no situation where truthfulness as a principle is a bad thing. I'm not talking about having negative effects, if you know what I mean. You can tell the truth and then, experience discomfort. But I'm speaking of in and of themselves. You cannot argue that as a principle, truthfulness blows hot or cold, depending on circumstances outside itself. As a principle, truthfulness is always a positive character trait. Self-mastery is always a positive character trait. Compassion is always a positive character trait. Purity of motive is always a positive character trait. Now, the problem with the four principles of Dharma, the masculine energies, is that by themselves, they do very little for anything or for anyone other than the individual practicing them. If I practice self-mastery, that benefits me and no one else. I mean, to the extent that I'm not causing problems to society, but primarily I am the only one that is benefited by self-mastery. If I practice truthfulness, I am the only one who is primarily benefited by that. The same thing with purity of motive and compassion. Compassion to a lesser extent, because compassion also includes others. But a person can practice the principles of Dharma literally on a mountaintop in total isolation, and they are benefited by that, while the rest of the world burns. You see, so the principles of Dharma, practiced and lived and manifest in isolation, have a very, very limited effect on the world around them. We see this in the stories of the Puranas, right? All of these wonderful sages living in the Himalayas, practicing the principles of Dharma while the world burns around them. And then Lord Shiva has to come and save the day. Lord Vishnu has to come and save the day. Whereas all of these all these dharmatmas, all these individuals living and practicing the principles of Dharma are perfectly unconcerned, untouched by the fact that the world around them is on fire. That's the way the principles of Dharma are. But these principles of Dharma, when combined with fame, fortune, fine speech, determination, patience, intelligence, memory, what happens are the four principles of Dharma are then expanded. a story to illustrate. In the Mahabharat, most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the Mahabharat. In the Mahabharat, won't go into the details because the Mahabharat is very long. There was Pandu, King Pandu, and his 2 wives. He himself could not have children due to a curse. We won't go down that very, very long story. He himself could not impregnate his wives, but his wives were fertile. His queen, Kunti Devi, she had the ability to conceive a child by being blessed by the gods. She could chant a mantra and bring a god, and the god would be compelled to impregnate. So when Pandu heard this, when Kunti told him, I can do this, Pandu says, well, let's go for it. Let's get the blessings of the gods, and you can give birth to their heart, their anksha, their seed, and they will be our children. So Kunti said, very well, so which god should I ask to give us a child? Pandu said, Dharmaraj. The personification of dharma should be the first, absolutely. Dharmaraj gave Kunti and Pandu a child, Yudhishthir. Kunti said, then, okay, so now, who should I ask? Pandu said, dharma by itself is ineffective. It's wonderful for the individual, Yudhishthir, but we are Kshatriyas, we are kings, we are the ruling class. Dharma has to be the foundation, absolutely. But by itself, it is ineffective, it is limited. So bring the most powerful of all the demigods, Vayu. Oftentimes people think the most powerful demigod is Indra. It is not. The most powerful demigod is Vayu. So Pandu says, bring Vayu. So Vayu came and gave Kunti and Pandu Bhim. So that dharma is supported by, executed by the most powerful force on the planet. This is dhriti, determination. Dharma without dhriti is ineffective. Limited, not ineffective, limited. So Kunti says, okay, well now, who should I bring? Pandu says, Indra. Vayu is the most powerful of all the demigods. Indra is the most famous of all demigods. Half of the Rig Veda is about Indra. Indra is the most, which is oftentimes why he is considered the most powerful, because he's the most famous. He's not the most powerful, he's the most famous. Pandu says, bring Indra to give us a child. Because dharma, which is not propagated, is ineffective, it's limited. It's an individual practicing dharma, great. If no one knows the principles of dharma, what's the use? So fame, and we see fame is a feminine principle. Dhriti is a feminine principle. Dharma requires fame, it requires dissemination. Everyone needs to know the principles of dharma. And then the story goes on. Madri was given the ability. Madri is the second wife of Pandu. She brought the Ashwini Kumaras, memory and intelligence. They gave birth to Nakul and Sahadev. I believe Sahadev was known to be extremely intelligent. Sahadev, Yudhishthira would always go to Sahadev, his youngest brother, the youngest of the 5 brothers. Whenever something needed to be done, Yudhishthira Maharaj would go to Sahadev and say, how do I get this done? How do I do this? What's the way forward? And Sahadev, highly intelligent, known to be the most intelligent among all of the 5 Pandavas. Brilliant, a genius was Sahadev. Intelligence, feminine quality. Dharma without that, limited. So now we went through all of that to now understand Karva Chauth. Our wives are engaged in Karva Chauth. Our wives are the embodiment, or can be, if they so choose, the embodiment of these feminine principles. They are going to be expansive. They're going to grow. They're going to nurture. They're going to create and expand that which is in the household. That's taken care of. But the question is, what are they expanding? That's where we come to Pati Dharma. What is the role of the husband? What is the duty, the obligation? What is the characteristics, if you will, even the qualities, if you will, of a husband, of a pati? It is one. Excuse me. Guru na saswat svajano na saswat pitana sasis janani na sasyat daivam na tatsyan na pati chasasyan na muchayidya samupetya mrityum, the Bhagavat Purana tells us. Don't become a leader. Don't become a demigod. Don't become so many different things. Don't become a leader, if you will, in whatever capacity, if you do not, or if you cannot do one simple thing. Namuchayadya samupetya mrityum. You must deliver your, subordinates is a wrong word. You must, if you're going to lead, you must deliver your followers from mrityu, death. Napatis chasasya. Pati, do not become a husband if you cannot lead your family to liberation. If you cannot lead, deliver your family from death. That and that alone is Pati Dharma. I didn't say good husband. It is very, very clear. You do not have to deliver your family from death in order to be a good husband. You can be a wonderful husband and your family are not delivered from death. Absolutely. Being a good husband in that regard is a matter of developing skills, and we'll come to that in a moment. But we're talking here not about being merely a good husband, but we're talking about Pati Dharma. If we're going to talk about Karva Chauth, we have to talk about Pati Dharma. Those two go together. If you want to talk about good wife, good husband, those are two different things. Not two different things. That's a different discussion, good wife, good husband. But we're talking about Karva Chauth and its complementary aspect on the other side is Pati Dharma. Karva Chauth, Pati Dharma. Karva Chauth, Pati Dharma. Good wife, good husband. Good wife, good husband. That's down here. Not down here, but that's that combined dynamic. We're talking about something much more expanded than that. We're talking about Karva Chauth and Pati Dharma. If you do not want to talk about Pati Dharma, if you don't want to have the responsibility of Pati, if you don't want to have the responsibility of leading your family to liberation, then don't talk about Karva Chauth and Sthiti Dharma. Don't talk about Karva Chauth and Sthiti Dharma if you're not going to talk about Pati Dharma and leading your family to mukti, liberation. But now we are talking about Karva Chauth, so we therefore must talk about Pati Dharma. And Pati Dharma is Namochayadya Samupetya Mrityum. You must lead your family to liberation. Bas, that's the duty of Pati. That is Pati Dharma. Now there's a problem. You can't. You are incapable of giving moksha. That's where we now have the problem for us husbands. Only two people can give moksha, liberation. Now, what is your duty? It is Pati Dharma to give napatischa sasyan. Do not become a husband if you cannot deliver from death. That is moksha. So there seems like there's a contradictory here. If I'm Pati, if I'm going to be Pati, if my Pati Dharma is to deliver from death, but yet now Maha Visnu, you're saying, I can't. What's going on here? So two people can give liberation. Vishnu, Shiva. That's it. No other demigod, no other personality can give liberation. Lord Shiva is Muktada, the giver of liberation, and Lord Vishnu is Mukunda, the giver of liberation. Two people. Those are the only two individuals who can give liberation from death, from samsara. That is Muktada, Lord Shiva, and Mukunda, Vishnu. So as a husband, what I must become is a follower of and get the benediction of Vishnu, Shiva. So as a pati, as a husband, the question is, how do I develop my relationship with Lord Shiva and or Lord Vishnu? That is the question of the husband. So get out your pens and notebooks, give you a moment, and I want you to answer this question in a sentence or two, not a long, drawn-out essay. We do not need that here. I'm going to ask you the question, pause the video so you can answer it. The question is this. Write the question down. How can I develop/improve my relationship with Vishnu and or Shiva? That's the question. Write the question down, pause the video, and write your one, maximum 2-sentence answer. And the answer has to be, I was going to say real, but I mean practicable and tangible. How do I develop a relationship with Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva? If you don't know how, well, come see me and I'll tell you. But it's very important that you answer the question for yourself. Then I will come in later and help you work through some things. But you have to answer it for yourself because there's a unique relationship between you and Vishnu or Lord Shiva. Pause the video, go for it. Now that you've answered that question, here is a little tip. What you've written about improving or developing a relationship between yourself and Vishnu or Lord Shiva, that same 9 times out of 10, the same answer to that question is the same answer to the question of how can I improve my relationship with my wife? Right? Most often when I've done this with others, 9 times out of 10, the answer they gave for improving their relationship with Lord Shiva Vishnu equally applies to their wife. Very interesting, isn't it? So now we develop a sadhana. You've already written how you can improve your relationship with Vishnu and Shiva. This is your Pati Dharma. To develop a sadhana, a practice that improves your relationship with Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva. That is now your Pati Dharma. Because by developing this relationship with Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, you then can lead your family to moksha. Not that you give moksha, but because of your devotion, because of your relationship, because of you receiving the blessings of Lord Vishnu, of Lord Shiva, then you and your family achieve moksha. So your Pati Dharma is developing, nurturing your relationship with Vishnu and Shiva. Next question. We talked about the masculine and the feminine energies as described and defined in Vedic literature. The masculine energies are some things we want to manifest as husbands. And especially in regards to Pati Dharma. Because we're talking about having a relationship with Vishnu and Lord Shiva. The primary or the foundation of that relationship with Vishnu and Lord Shiva is resting upon the principles of Dharma. A person who is adharmic, a person who does not follow the principles of Dharma, cannot have a relationship with Vishnu Shiva. Impossible. Because Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, their primary activity in this world is upholding Dharma. So it behooves us, first and foremost, to be Dharmatmas. So the second requirement of Pati Dharma is for us to become Dharmatmas. For the husband to become a follower of the principles of Dharma, essential in Pati Dharma. Right? So the first duty for the husband in terms of Pati Dharma is developing a relationship with Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva so that we can lead our families towards moksha, which are the blessings of Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. Number two, the primary way I'm going to be able to establish that relationship with Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, or that relationship is founded upon the principles of Dharma, so I therefore must become Dharmatma. So the four principles of Dharma, I must ask myself, how can I continue to develop, manifest, and live according to the four principles of Dharma? Tapa, Socha, Daya, Satya. That is the second question. How can I live my life according to the four principles of Dharma? Tapa, Socha, Daya, Satya. Pause the video, answer this question. Even if you have to pause the video for an hour, write down, think it through. Don't write an essay. It should be 2-3 sentences at most. It does require thought. It does require reflection. If you need help, come to me after. We will work through it. But you must do this primarily first for yourself. And then the others can help you. Other Pandajis, whether it's myself or another, can help you. Make it unique. Develop a sadhana that is unique to you. And now the final and the third issue of Pati Dharma. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dhasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Another wonderful instruction we find in the Puranas of 9 ways we can improve our relationship. 9 bhakti. These are principles of bhakti that we can use for improving our relationship with the Supreme, with Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, and with one another. We won't go through all 9. There's one in particular that is particularly powerful in the husband-wife relationship, especially in terms of a reciprocal energy, a reciprocal bond that is established in the time of Karva Chauth, in relation to Karva Chauth, because we know our wives are fasting, they're engaging in some worship in the temple. How does the husband reciprocate that? We reciprocate that by taking on the duties and the obligations of Pati Dharma. First of all, that is the first one we reciprocate, but particularly in terms of Karva Chauth. How does the husband reciprocate in that manner? Archana, worship. Worship is a terrible term, not terrible. It is a limited term that the English language uses to describe archana, right? So we can say archana means worship. But archana means much more than that. But it is archanam, which is a reciprocal activity the husband can do, not just during Karva Chauth, but during Karva Chauth, but also just in our relationship with our wife. But it is this archana. So on the day of Karva Chauth, as husbands, archanam is our reciprocal activity, our reciprocal practice, our reciprocal sadhana. What is archanam? Archanam is worship, okay, yes. But what is worship in the context of bhakti? Because these 9 aspects are part of the teachings in bhakti yoga. What is archanam in that context? Archanam, worship, has been completely distorted in this day and age because of individuals using archanam as a means to, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, as a means to blackmail, there's no really better word for it, blackmail the shraddha, the faith of Sanatanis, of persons who follow the Vedic teachings for their own gain. What I mean by that is Panditjis, or the class of individuals, I shouldn't say Panditjis, because that's being generic. Persons will use the Vedic teachings, they will use the mandir, they will use the Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and all these principles of Sanatan Dharma to swindle the common individual for their personal gain. You must come to the mandir and I will do a puja so you can get a nice house, a nice this, a nice that. If you come to the mandir, I'll do a puja, I'll do some archanam so you can get this and do that and do. This is how archanam has been perverted. That's not archanam. Archanam is not something we do so that we can get from Vishnu Shiva. It's actually the opposite. We engage, archana means we engage in something, a puja, a offering, whatever it may be. We engage in an activity with a particular individual, be that a god or our wife. We engage in some kind of activity, or even just individually. We engage in some kind of activity, perform some kind of ritual, or engage in some kind of behavior that expresses our gratitude for what we have or what we have experienced. Archanam is about gratitude. It is not about going to offering something so that I can get. That's not archanam. Archanam is, I am offering this to you, I am showing this to you, I'm doing this because I'm grateful for what has already happened in my life. I am making this offering to you because I'm grateful that I have the house that I currently live in. I am making this offering because I'm grateful to have the ability to work to get the house that I want. I'm grateful for the ability. I'm grateful for the education I have. I'm grateful for the situations, the experiences, the circumstances you've put around me that I can work for a bigger house. I can work for a car that works. I can pursue marriage life. Archana is about gratitude. So in context of Karva Chauth, our wives are engaging in all types of sadhana during Karva Chauth for the well-being of their pati, who is Dharmatma. If you're not Dharmatma, your wife is engaging in all kinds of vows for your well-being, but you're not even a Dharmatma. You're not holding up your end of the bargain, which is Pati Dharma, not being a good husband. She does not need to engage in Karva Chauth in order to be a good wife. She can be a good wife, and there's many good wives around the world who do not engage in Karva Chauth. The vast majority of the world, of women, married women in the world, do not engage in Karva Chauth and are perfectly wonderful wives. She's engaged in Karva Chauth because she is married to someone who adheres to Pati Dharma. Karva Chauth is related to Pati Dharma, which means you are Dharmatma. She is engaged in the sadhana of Karva Chauth, so you must engage in the sadhana of Archana. You must show and reciprocate with gratitude. You must practice gratitude. And that is the third lesson of the day. Write down one thing for which you are grateful for regarding your wife. And write it as if you were addressing her. My dear Devi, I am grateful for you because of this. Write that down. Now, today, pause the video and write that down, whatever it is that is unique to your relationship for which you are truly grateful for. So now that you've written that down, specifically today, doing Karva Chauth, recite that phrase, not as an affirmation, but as a confirmation to ourselves, or to yourself. Because that is going to develop a sense of gratitude within you. Of course it is, because you wrote it down, I didn't. You wrote down something for which you are grateful for your wife. Repeat that as a mantra for at least 5 minutes. This is going to be the foundation. Gratitude is the foundation for improving your relationship. And everything else is after that. Everything else is skill. How to communicate. People talk about, you don't need me to tell you what needs to be done to improve your relationship. Well, listen more, do this, do that. Be thankful, give compliments, and so on and so forth. Those are skills that one can develop. But you will not be able to develop and even use and live with those skills if you do not have a foundation of gratitude. It is gratitude that will give you the ability, the skill, the determination, everything you need to engage in all those and develop all those skills. You will not be able to be patient with your wife, be compassionate with your wife, be loving with your wife, and all those things if you are not at least grateful. If you are not grateful, nothing, no other tip for improving, no tip for improving your relationship is going to work if you are not grateful, if you do not know you're grateful, and specifically why you're grateful. And if you cannot find one thing for which you are grateful for your wife, I don't want to talk to you anymore. We can just turn this off. I ask for one thing for you to write down for which you are grateful for your wife. If you cannot write down one bloody thing, you are in serious trouble. You are not Pati. And I have no one, and the fact that she is doing Karva Chauth for you, you are the luckiest man on the face of the planet. I'm not here to berate the husbands of the world. but you should have no problem writing down a dozen things for which you are grateful for your wife. This is archanam. This is the sadhana, the practice of archanam. This is the spirit of archanam. Archanam is about gratitude. That's what archanam is. It's been perverted by those nefarious panditjis who just want to extort the faith of the common people. Oh, give money, give donations, and I'll do a puja so that you can get house, car, whatever. That's not archanam. Archanam is engage in this activity to show your gratitude for the health that you have, for the house that you have, for the intelligence that you have, for the circumstances, the situations, all these things that you have that you can use to do more, that you can use to be a better wife, to be a better husband. I am showing my gratitude. We'll end here. And remember, the reciprocal element for Karva Chauth is Pati Dharma. Karva Chauth, Pati Dharma. There's various sadhanas and activities the wife is doing for the well-being of their pati. Not for their husband, for their pati. You are pati. You therefore must recognize what is your Pati Dharma, which means lead to moksha. Lead your family to moksha. That's what she's doing. She is elevating. She's asking for the benefit of her husband to have the courage, the strength, the vitality, the knowledge to lead towards moksha. So you therefore must become dharmatma, because that is the foundation of your relationship with Vishnu Shiva. So you must become dharmatma. She is engaged in vows. She's fasting. How do you reciprocate? Archanam. You worship her. Worship is gratitude. Are you grateful for her? Are you grateful for her? Are you grateful for her? Archanam. Worship her. Show gratitude. Be grateful. That is Pati Dharma. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Kurvavahai Tejasvinavadhitnamastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Hari.